Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Laura Prada from our Telesur studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with our news. Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez announced on national television that in the last 24 hours there has been no new COVID-19 cases reported in the country.
In the last 24 hours, no COVID-19 positive cases have been reported. We know that it is a difficult task, but we are certain that together we are going to fight this pandemic. We are taking all necessary measures that have scientific backup and for the expert in this matter in order to verify that the measures we are enforcing are correctly applied and due.
Rodriguez also informed that the government has officially asked the World Health Organization for medical assistance and supplies to fight the coronavirus pandemic.
President Nicolás Maduro was on a phone call with the World Health Organization Director Tedros Adhanom, to whom we thank for the support through the Pan American Health Organization that has been cooperating with Venezuela. The President officially requested World Health Organization Director for the technical cooperation, health assistance, medical supplies, and COVID-19 testing. We luckily and happily thank Dr. Adhanom, who confirmed that they will be assisting Venezuela with all we need. As we all know, we are in a special circumstance. We are a country illegally sanctioned and under a criminal blockade. In the midst of this global pandemic, who applies a political agenda as a miserable and inhuman due to the time we are living in which humankind is under threat.
Meanwhile, the Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro announced that the country is expected to receive 2 million COVID-19 test kits as part of the government's efforts to contain the spread of the virus.
We have already drawn up a plan how to prioritize suspicious cases on a mass scale, which is what the Director General of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros, recommended to me today. Following the measures we implemented to promote social distancing, we are now focusing on testing, and we are trying to get 2 million test kits, so we can begin the testing of suspicious cases on a mass scale over the following days.
President Maduro also indicated that this Thursday will be arriving humanitarian aid from China besides the medical assistance that came from Cuba this week.
This Thursday, it begins to arrive the special humanitarian aid from China to Venezuela. Also, on Monday, it arrived a group of the greatest specialists in medicine that Cuba has won and successfully worked to recover those infected by the COVID-19. They are set here along with us.
And passengers aboard a British cruise ship that has been stranded for more than a week in the Caribbean after several cases of the new coronavirus and dozens in isolation were confirmed on board, disembarked in Cuba on Wednesday in order to fly home. Cuba offered safe haven to Bremer cruise ship at the request of the British government after several other Caribbean nations declined to let it dock. The island is renowned for its preparedness in cases of natural disasters and has a long history of medical diplomacy, sending thousands of doctors on missions worldwide. Officials from United Kingdom and Cuban authorities arranged the arrival of 3 chartered British Airways flights that will take over 1,000 passengers back to London. And Cuba has confirmed 1 new case of COVID-19, bringing the total number to 11 and 356 under observation and hospitalized. The island has also recorded the first death due to the pandemic, a 61-year-old male Italian tourist who was among the first cases detected. On your screens, you have the information given by the Ministry of Public Health of Cuba, giving the information this March 18 at 6 p.m. That was the update given. In Chile, the president has declared the state of emergency to face the spread of the COVID-19. This declaration also comes a month after massive anti-government protests that demand his resignation and also after he declared a state of emergency just in the midst of these protests, just today, like we are celebrating 5 months of the beginning.
This state of constitutional emergency makes it possible to issue a series of measures, including restricting meetings in public spaces to avoid large gatherings, ensuring the distribution of basic goods and services, ordering the creation of food reserves, and other goods necessary for the care and subsistence of the population, establishing quarantines or curfews, issuing measures for the protection of services of public utility, and limiting the transit or locomotion of persons.
In Chile, workers at the Santiago airport have denounced poor sanitary conditions amid the coronavirus. This is just the latest of outcries by workers across Chile who heavily condemned the lack of actions by the government on providing them with sufficient protection amid the COVID-19 pandemic. President Piñera only declared a state of catastrophe for 90 days on Wednesday as the country registers more than 200 COVID-19 cases. Now the country's borders are all closed, but the rest of the measures to be implemented under the state of catastrophe is yet to be known. However, the armed forces will be on the streets to facilitate the work of health officials. Meanwhile, Chile Economic Minister Lucas Palacios announced that all shopping malls will be closed starting from Thursday to prevent the spread of the novel coronavirus. However, supermarkets, health centers, banks, and hardware stores remain open. Small shop owners are allowed to keep open as well, but pubs and nightclubs must close to avoid mass gatherings. In the Caribbean, the Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Alan Chastanet, has referred to the actions of St. Lucia's government to avoid the COVID-19 pandemic, along with the announcement of 2 confirmed cases for the COVID-19. This is what the Health Minister had to say about it.
The Department of Health also received the results of 9 other patients that we have in isolation. All of the other results that we received to date are negative. The total number of confirmed cases of COVID-19 remain 2. These 2 patients remain stable in isolation and are doing well.
And Martinican authorities have announced restrictions on international flights from Wednesday due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Martinique's government established a limited time for hundreds of tourists currently located on the island to return to their home countries as a preventative measure to stop the spread of the novel coronavirus. The flight restrictions relate to European nations where thousands of cases have been reported, as well as neighboring Guadalupe and Dominica. The World Health Organization is set to launch multinational clinical trials for potential coronavirus therapies. WHO head Tedros Adhanom said the called Solidarity trial will see various countries and institutes compare untested treatment for COVID-19 to generate the robust data needed to show which treatments are the most effective. To date, about 10 countries have confirmed their participation in the trial. Sub-Saharan Africa has recorded its first COVID-19 cause death in Burkina Faso. The country's health authorities have announced that out of 27 confirmed cases, a 62-year-old diabetic woman was the first victim.
While we were about to announce the first cures in the patients, whose checkups are due today, we recorded the death of a 60-year-old diabetic patient who was under intensive care during the night of 17 to 18 March 2020 at 11:25 p.m. to be precise.
Meanwhile, South Africa has banned cruise ships from entering the nation ports to curb the spread of the novel coronavirus. COVID-19 cases have reached 116, the highest number recorded in sub-Saharan Africa.
Passenger vessels will be allowed in our ports. In essence, there is a total ban on cruise ships. This affects all leisure travelers with effect from today.
In Nigeria, the government has issued a travel ban on citizens from 13 countries that have been hit the worst by COVID-19.
The federal government will restrict entry to Nigeria of persons from the listed high-burden countries with effect from Friday, March 20th, for a period of 4 weeks initially and subject to review.
And several shops have been left empty in Libya as people rush to buy supplies after the government announced a shutdown to prevent COVID-19 outbreak. Libya's United Nations recognized government has announced measures which include the closure of all land borders under its control to keep out the coronavirus. Tripoli's only functioning airport was already shut down due to the fighting between the Government of National Accord forces and Khalifa Haftar fighters. Libya is one of the few African countries which have not yet confirmed any COVID-19 infection. A set of medical supplies from China has arrived to Paris as part of China's effort to help various countries across the globe struggling to contain the novel coronavirus. France currently has more than 9,000 cases and over 260 deaths.
This batch of medical aids include protective masks, surgical masks, protective suits, and medical gloves. At the crucial moment when China waged war against the epidemic, both the French government and people provided us with medical supplies, which we appreciate. Now, with the spread of the pandemic, France, as well as the wider Europe, are confronted with a serious challenge. And China, in return, is ready to offer aid to France as much as possible. I think this demonstrates that true friendship stands out in difficult times, and the mutual medical aids also reflect the high-level friendly and cooperative relations between China and France.
Italy has announced the highest one-day number of COVID-19 deaths recorded in any country since the outbreak started. The Italian Civil Protection Service said 475 people have died from the novel coronavirus over the last 24 hours, surpassing any one-day death toll of any nation since the first case was detected in China late last year. This brings the total number of deaths in Italy to 2,978, more than half of all the cases recorded outside China. Almost 36,000 people infected by COVID-19 in Italy. Like this, we go for a first break. Remember, stay tuned with us. Follow us on Twitter at Telesur English and on my account at Laura P. Telesur. We'll be right back. We are back with our news. Former Ugandan Army General and Security Minister Henry Tumukunde has appeared in court over alleged treason charges. Tumukunde was arrested last week after announcing plans to run in presidential elections scheduled for next year. The former ally of President Yoweri Museveni is accused of working with Rwanda to remove the current government. He is also accused of unlawful possession of firearms after 2 pistols were found in his home.
Is that the health of the suspect and our client was not the best because he had been dragged out of a hospital bed to come and be tried in court. So we made a prayer to court to have his personal doctors access him at Luzira, where he's been remanded, and the court agreed with our prayer and ordered that his personal doctors, private doctors, should be in position to access him at Luzira.
Niger's army says it has prevented an attack on a military base by hundreds of Boko Haram fighters from the terrorist group. A senior military official said heavily armed Boko Haram members aboard 20 vehicles attacked the base in the early hours of this Monday. The soldiers in the base, with the help of reinforcements from a special intervention battalion, were able to prevent the group from overrunning the camp. 50 assailants were killed during this attack. The South African Communist Party has welcomed the decision by the country's Ministry of Justice to deny parole to Janus Wolus, the killer of the party's former leader and liberation icon Chris Hani. A statement by the party said Wolus is an UN repentant, cold-blooded assassin who must not be granted parole. Wolus is serving a life sentence for the 1993 murder of Hani, who served as Secretary General of the Communist Party and member of the African National Congress. And two former officers of the now defunct Mexican Federal Police have been arrested on charges of torturing some of those detained over the disappearance of the 43 Ayotzinapa student teachers. One of the detainee officers currently serves as Deputy Director of Operational Control for the Security Directorate of the Mexican Chamber of Deputies. The other is Area Director of the Criminal Investigation Agency and reports to the Attorney General of the Republic. They are accused of subjecting several detainees to torture in October 2014 to compel them to plead guilty to participating in the disappearance of the missing 43 student teachers. Although these events were denounced in 2015, the investigation did not progress until last year when a video was released depicting the torture of one of the victims. Time for another short break. Just stay tuned with us. We are back with our news. 3 U.S. states headed to the polls last Tuesday to select their candidates for the Democratic primaries. Joe Biden won in both Florida and Illinois and is expected to win in Arizona as well. Ohio was the only state scheduled to hold a primary, which opted to postpone last minute while citizens are shuddering over coronavirus concerns, and some cities have taken major steps to try to halt the spread. States like Florida push ahead with smaller than usual crowds.
Today, it looks like once again, in Florida and Illinois, we're still awaiting to hear from Arizona. Our campaign has had a very good night. We've moved closer to securing the Democratic Party's nomination for president. And we're doing it by building a broad coalition that we need to win in November.
An Iraqi trust announced on Wednesday that the United States may have used biological weapons during an attack on an airport under construction in the holy city of Karbala. The Imam Hussein Mausoleum Trust Administration announced that it had recorded the possible use of prohibited weapons in the attack last Friday and told reporters that it was willing to cooperate along with the airport construction company with the country's authorities to verify whether Washington used biological weapons against the facility. The trust also requested that the United Nations Assistance Mission for Iraq sends a delegation of inspectors to the attacked airport and announced it will file a lawsuit in international courts to denounce the bombing of the airport. The U.S. troops that tops the list of countries that research and use biological weapons, according to Canadian website Global Research. Meanwhile, tensions between foreign and Iraqi forces continue to rise. United States consular services in Iraq have been reduced to minimum. There are continued calls from the Iraqi population for U.S. troops to completely withdraw from the country. And China has announced that it will expel U.S. journalists from 3 major U.S. newspapers, saying the expulsions were in retaliation to Washington's decision to cut the number of Chinese nationals allowed to work for its state-run media on U.S. soil.
We are against this ideological prejudice against China, the production of fake news under the pretext of press freedom, and the violation of the professional ethics of journalism. We hope that foreign media and journalists can play an active role in promoting mutual understanding between China and the world, We will offer support and convenience to the normal reporting work of foreign journalists in China as always.
Like this, we come to the end of this brief part. Of course, you can find much more information on our website, telesturenglish.net, where, of course, you can find and follow the latest relating this coronavirus outbreak around the world. If you visit our website, there you can read opinion articles, watch special interviews like the one we had this Tuesday to the creator of the interferon 2B, Alpha 2B from Cuba, Luis Herrera, and of course there you can do follow-up to the electoral process in United States. Of course, the different pronunciations from the different governments throughout the world regarding how they are responding to this global pandemic of the COVID-19. Like this, we come to the end. Of course, the invitation is made. You continue with us with Telesur, always together, connecting our global thousands. Next time, thank you for watching.